watching TV the other day, and this show comes on with these religious fanatics. They were crazy. Well, you would think they were crazy if you didn't understand their culture and their religion. See, that's just the thing. They were worshipers of idols, and they took things to extremes. They painted their bodies. They wore these ridiculous costumes. They chanted, they danced, they made sacrifices to their idols. They had built these enormous temples to worship their idols in. It seemed like their entire existence climaxed into this one scenario, this one over-the-top act of worship. You don't really relate, do you? Let's try it again. I was watching TV the other day, and this show comes on with these religious fanatics. They were crazy. See, that's just the thing. They were worshipers of idols, and they took things to extremes. They painted their bodies. They wore these ridiculous costumes. They chanted, they danced, they made sacrifices to their idols. They had built these enormous temples to worship their idols in. It seemed like their entire existence climaxed into this one scenario, this one over-the-top act of worship. Idol worship. It's not just about golden calves anymore.
Man. I don't know about you guys, but that one kind of stung me the first time I watched it. It actually still kind of stings me every time I watch it. Because if you know me, I'm a huge Chiefs fan. I mean, I love football. I love this thing. When September rolls around, I love going up to Kansas City, paying my tithes, and getting into the Temple of Arrowhead to watch my Chiefs dominate. It's crazy. I hate to admit it, but it's become an idol to me. See, this ball has become an idol to me, just like in that video. At first I didn't really think it was that big of a deal, to be honest with you, but then I started to realize that it actually hurt me to miss part of a Chiefs game because of church on Sundays. And that's when I kind of knew that, okay, something might be wrong here. Maybe I'm worshiping the wrong thing. And then it spread from there. No longer was I watching the game during the football season, but now in the off season that we're in, I check my phone every day. I check for updates. Who the Chiefs signed today? Who they cut? Are we going to win the division this year? What are the analysts talking about? It's my idol. And I hate to admit it, but I have to. See, he says in the video, it's not about golden calves anymore. And I wasn't able to find a golden calf, but I was looking for some type of idol, and, this is what I found. This is what we think of. Like he said in the video, like ridiculous little figurines like this is what we think of when we think of idols. This is what they had back in biblical times. They would make little creatures like that. But it's not about golden calves anymore. No, if it were about this stuff, we'd laugh at it. If we walked around and we saw people bowing down and worshiping something like this, we would laugh at them. We would think they were ridiculous. We could easily call them out and say, hey, you probably shouldn't be doing that, especially if they're a Christian. Hey, you probably shouldn't be worshiping that little idol, that little statue that does nothing. But it's not about golden calves anymore. No, they're a lot less obvious to us today. But they're still there. Maybe it is football for you. Maybe it's a sport. Maybe you just love some sport so much. Maybe it's our vehicles. How many of us have that favorite car that we just dream that we could have? Well, that motorcycle, you name it, something. Like, I know that I look out every day, I'm like, man, I just want a new Dodge Charger. Like, that's what I want. Like, that's the car I want. Maybe it's technology. Some of you are using your cell phones right now to look up the Bible, and that's great, I love it. But just like you guys, I'm tempted to often pull up Facebook while I'm trying to read the Bible, because it's right there. And I get addicted to this technology, I get addicted to my phone. I catch myself just staring at it for hours upon hours upon hours, wasting time. It becomes an idol. technology becomes an idol. But some idols are just a lot less obvious. Maybe it's money. I know that's something I struggle with. Gotta have more money. Come on, give it to me. I gotta have more. I don't care how I get it, I just need more money. Maybe it's relationships. Or maybe it's this right here. Maybe it's this flag. Now don't get me wrong, I love our country, I love the freedoms we have, but honestly it scares me sometimes because I think that sometimes we start to worship the stars and stripes. We pledge allegiance at the same time that we pledge allegiance to that flag, but often we pledge allegiance to this flag first. And we think it's okay because we say, well, one nation under God. That's, I think, kind of the problem. Is because then we start to mix the United States with the kingdom of God. And we start worshiping this over Jesus. If you don't believe me, the signs are kind of out there if you just watch for them. You know, when our secular nation, or for those of you who've been saying Daniel with us, when our Babylon starts doing Babylonian things like legalizing gay marriage, legalizing abortion, legalizing you name it, taking Christmas trees out of the White House, calling everything holidays, we have a meltdown. We act like that just because our country's burning down, the church is too. The good thing is, it's not. Because America is not the church. America is not the kingdom of God. But that's what we do. We turn it into our idol. That's what we worship. That leads me back to the book of Judges, where we're coming to the close of our series that we've done for the last couple months, where idolatry defines this book. Like if you read the entire book of Judges, it's what keeps leading Israel back into sin. Over and over and over again. And God raises up judges. They lead them back towards God. And then as soon as the judge dies, they forget everything. Butch and I have told you that we've been doing a series here, but at school I had to write my own series for the book of Judges. And this is the last series the last sermon in my series as well. But you guys weren't able to hear my first sermon in the series, but I argued that the book of Judges is not a Canaanite book. It's an Israelite book. Now what's that mean and why is that important? Well, see, Canaan was the land that the Israelites had just moved into. Canaan was the pagan land that they were living in, that God had given them. And God told them, get rid of all the idols, get rid of all the evil things they do. Do not copy them. Do not practice what they do. They're living in Canaan. But pretty soon, Canaan started living in them. And that was the problem. See, Canaan was pretty evil. They did everything from child sacrifice to civil wars to idol worship. Honestly, everything you read in the book of Judges, you saw in Canaan. The things in Judges was normal for the Canaanites. But the book of Judges is not a Canaanite book. It's an Israelite book. It's our book. As the new Israel, this is us. This is our history. And that's kind of scary. Because for a long time, I saw this as a Canaanite book. And what I would do is I would take the book of Judges, and especially that last line in the book, and we'll see it in just a little bit, where the author, he tries to sum up the whole time period by saying, in those days there was no king, and everyone did as they pleased. Everyone did as they saw fit. Everyone did what was right in their own eyes. The author sums the whole book up with that line. And that scared me. It sent chills down my spine because I thought this was a Canaanite book. And I would take this book, I would use it as a mirror, and I'd turn it to our culture and I'd say, do you see yourselves? Look at this, America. Look at us, culture. Do you see yourselves? This is you. You have no king and you do as you see fit. I mean, it makes sense, doesn't it? That's what our culture's come to. All these things. But of course they're going to see their reflection. Of course they're going to see their reflection. Because this isn't a Canaanite book. No, all these things were normal for Canaan. All those things are normal for our culture. This is an Israelite book. And when I realized this, I had to flip the mirror around. I had to point at myself. I had to point at the church. And suddenly I saw us in it. I didn't see our culture anymore. No, I saw me. I saw my idolatry. I saw our idolatry, all the things that we struggle with, even more than our culture does. It reflects our culture. Or it reflects the church. That's why we need to learn from this. And so as we come to our passage today, I want you to keep that in mind. I want you to keep that in mind that this is a mirror reflecting us. And we're going to see how we are reflected in this mirror. It's going to be painful. And it's definitely not going to look pretty, but that's what Judges is. It's a mirror that we must look at and see ourselves so we can correct it. So if you'll turn with me to Judges 17. That's where we're at today. And this passage, it's not the last story in the book of Judges, but I think it works well with Judges 2 to make a perfect bookend to the entire thing. Judges 2 and Judges 17 pretty much sum up everything that's happened in the 14 chapters in between. And so, something else I want to do here, as we go through this story, I want us to count, because honestly, on face value, this story seems kind of random. But I want us to count how many of the 10 Commandments, how many of the 10 Commandments are broken within this short story. So we start in verse 1. Now a man named Micah from the hill country of Ephraim said to his mother, "The 1,100 shekels of silver that were taken from you, and about which I heard you utter a curse, I have that silver. I took it." Hey Mom, remember that money that got stolen from you and you cursed the guy who took it? Well, that was me. Sorry. But hey, I'm going to give it back to you. Don't worry. Because I really don't want to be cursed. So, let's see. First he lies. That's 1. They disobeyed his mom. That's disobeying your parents. That's 2. And then he stole the money. That's 3 commandments broken in these first couple verses. There's 3. Then his mother said, "The Lord bless you, my son." What? Your son just stole a whole bunch of silver from you. He admits to it. You even cursed him before you knew who he was. And now you're blessing him? But we do this too. Unfortunately, we see it in the church a lot. How many pastors preach against homosexuality until they find out their child's gay? And suddenly it's like, okay, maybe I can't talk about that anymore. No, I can't condemn it anymore because, well, that's my son. No, I'll bless him instead. So when he returned the 1,100 shekels of silver to his mother, she said, "I solemnly consecrate my silver to the Lord for my son to make an image overlaid with silver. I will give it back to you." So he returns the money, she blesses him, and then she sends out to make into an idol that she dedicates to the Lord. And then she gives the idol to her son. That's idolatry. And that's having multiple gods. We're up to 5 commandments broken right now, and we're only not even halfway into the passage. 5 commandments broken. Now, I was talking to my friend Andy Luker about this passage one time. I said, man, it just seems so crazy. Like, what made her think that by consecrating the silver to the Lord, making an idol was still okay? And me and him kind of talked about it, and he said, it's kind of like the worship leader who really wants that brand new guitar. He doesn't really need it, but he wants it. It's a really nice new guitar. Maybe he can't even afford it. But he goes and buys it anyway. But his excuse, though, is he comes back and he says, "Oh, well, you know what? I'm going to worship the Lord with it. I'm going to worship Jesus with this new guitar. That's why I bought the guitar." No, it's not. You didn't buy the guitar because you were wanting to worship God with it. You're buying the guitar because you were worshiping the guitar. You wanted the guitar. worshiping God was just your excuse. And that's what the mother's excuse here is too, to make it sound good, to sugarcoat it. So after he returned the silver to his mother, she took 200 shekels of silver and gave it to the silversmith, who used them to make the idol, and it was put in Micah's house. Now this man Micah had a shrine, and he made an ephod and some household gods, and installed one of his own sons as a priest. So now we kind of get a glimpse of the full story. Micah here is a full-fledged idolater. He has a whole house full. He has a whole shrine full of idols that he worships. And on top of it all, he makes his son his priest. Now the Levites were the ones who could be priests, and even then, only those descended from Aaron could be actual priests. But Micah didn't care. He made his son his priest. He made this his shrine. Now I was trying to think, I wonder what a shrine would have looked like. If you'll switch to the next picture, maybe a shrine kind of looks like this. That's kind of what I think of. Having all these little idols and stuff. Can you go to the next one? Yeah. Again, another one, only bigger. But I thought, no, that's a little, that in some parts of the world that would be considered a shrine. But I started thinking, what's a shrine look like in America? And this is what I found, if we'll go to the next slide. A whole room dedicated to Elvis. Look at that.
Thank you very much.
We don't think about it because in our culture, that's kind of just accepted. That's normal. But I got thinking even more, and I realized that I didn't even have to look on the internet for some kind of shrine. I looked around my room and suddenly discovered that I was able to make my own shrine. Go to the next slide. I went to my dorm room and I put all my Chiefs memorabilia together. And ironically, after this picture was taken, my dad showed up later with a brand new Chiefs mug for me that he bought me.
Oh no.
Yeah. I was like, well, that works. So yeah, I gathered all this stuff. And it may look different, but it really isn't all that different from those other pictures. These are the kinds of shrines we make in our culture. The kind of idols that we put together. So we've broken so far 5 commandments. There's going to be a couple more that we break. But at this point in the story, in verse 6, the author of Judges, he tries to kind of sum up the story. Or he tries to make an excuse for it seems like. Give an explanation for it. He says, in those days, Israel had no king, and everyone did as they saw fit. Everyone did as they saw fit. So he's kind of saying, this is why Micah is doing all these crazy things. This is why he has his own shrine. This is why he's got his own priest. This is why his mom did what she did. This is why Micah stole in the first place. That's why he's breaking all these commandments left and right. It's because there was no king and everyone did as they saw fit. And to be honest with you, that's how we kind of live too. We kind of live like we don't have a king. There's a lot of times, I know I do, I kind of forget that Jesus is right there. I forget that we have a king, and I live in a time just like our culture does now. I live as if there is no king and that everything I do is right. And that's something I struggle with. So we move on to verse 7, because after the author sums it up with that statement, you think, okay, well, maybe things will get better. It really doesn't. See, as I mentioned earlier, Levites were the only ones who could be priests, and even within the Levite tribe, only those who came from Aaron, Moses' brother, they could only be priests. So a young Levite from Bethlehem, how convenient for Micah, a young Levite from Bethlehem in Judah, who had been living within the clan of Judah, left that town in search of some other place to stay. On his way, he came to Micah's house in the hill country of Ephraim. Micah asked him, "Where are you from?" "I'm a Levite from Bethlehem in Judah," he said, "and I'm looking for a place to stay." Then Micah, taking advantage of the opportunity, says, "What? Come live with me. Come live with me and be my father and priest, and I'll give you 10 shekels of silver a year, your clothes, and your food." This Levite was not qualified to be a priest. He wasn't. He was a Levite, but he wasn't from Aaron's family. Otherwise, we would have been told that. So he's not even a priest, he's not qualified, but Micah doesn't care. And he offers him a yearly stipend, free room and board, a shopping spree, and a weekly meal plan. Any college student in this room knows that's a pretty darn good deal. Like, that's a free ride scholarship to college right there. Of course he was too good to pass up. It didn't matter if the Levite was qualified or not. He took the job. So the Levite agreed to live with him, and the young man became like one of his sons to him. Then Micah installed the Levite, and the young man became his priest and lived in his house. In verse 13, here's the kicker. And Micah said, "Now I know that the Lord will be good to me, since this Levite has become my priest." Since this Levite has become the priest, the Lord's going to be good to me. We see this in the church too. We see those people who only show up to church twice a year, but you probably know them pretty well. They're the ones who say, yeah, I kind of believe that Bible stuff, but, I golf with the preacher every Tuesday. I do. Shake hands with the holy man. Throw in a couple bucks here and there. I'm good. Man, I'm golden, actually. And they think that because, they do all these little things and that they're friends with the pastor, that the Lord will somehow bless them. And that's just not true. It's not true at all. So, do we see ourselves, church? Do we see ourselves in this mirror yet? These are all things that happen to us on a regular basis. See, this one little idol that was made ended up causing a lot of sin in a very short period of time. And the story didn't end there. Chapter 18 goes on. The Danites come through, and they're looking for a new place to live, but they happen to walk by Micah's house on their way. And they see the idol, they see the shrine, and they covet it. That's another one. That's another commandment broken. And then they steal it. They steal the idol, they steal the shrine, and they steal the Levite too, because the Levite's not qualified. He doesn't really care anyway. All I have to say is, hey, wouldn't it be better if you were the priest of a whole tribe than one man? And when all you want to do in life is be a priest, of course you're going to go with it. So Micah goes with them, and they take the idols. And so they covet, they steal. We already covered that one earlier. And then they come to this new town that they're looking to inhabit, and the town was actually at peace. It was disconnected from the rest of society. It was kind of out in the middle of nowhere. Had no connections to the outside world, and it was peaceful. They could have easily just moved in, become neighbors, whatever. No, instead, the Danites move in, and they kill the entire village. They wipe them out. This peaceful village just gone. The Danites rename it, and then they set up this idol that Micah made. They set up the idol, and they worshipped it for hundreds of years. Murder, that's 7. So in this one passage, this little idol, this thing right here, something this small, broke 7 commandments. All in a really short period of time. And again, the best the author can come up with to all this unbelievable activity is, in those days there was no king and everyone did as they saw fit. There was no one to guide them. They worshipped it for hundreds of years and no one said a word. That's what our idolatry can do to us. Do we see ourselves yet? Come on, church, look in the mirror. The reflection isn't pretty, but it's us. This is an Israelite book. This is our book. This is our history. This isn't Canaanite. This isn't America. This is us. Charles Spurgeon, famed preacher, used to say that he would take his passage wherever it was in the Bible, and this is impressive all on its own. I haven't tried a whole lot yet. But he said he would take his passage wherever it was in the Bible, and he'd make a beeline for the cross. So where's the cross in this passage? I mean, it's a pretty terrible passage. We broke down how many commandments were broken. Lots of wicked things going against God happened. So then where is the cross? Where's the hope for us idolaters and sinners? I want to take a look back at verse 7. of chapter 17. Where's the Levite from? A young Levite from Bethlehem in Judah. He's from Bethlehem in Judah, which would later become known as Judea under the Romans. That's actually the same Bethlehem that another priest, a real priest, by the way, as the author of Hebrews would tell us, would come. And also, this priest would also be a king. Which, if you look, are the two things that this passage actually needs. These were the two things that Israel needed at this time. These were the two things that Micah needed at this time, Danites needed at this time. That's the two things that we need at this time. We need a king. And we need a priest. And that's what Jesus was. And just like the Levite, Jesus came out of Bethlehem. And he would become our high priest. And he would not mediate between us and some worthless idols like this stuff. No. He'd mediate between us and the real God. The real God that cares about whether we do this stuff or not. Because he does. All throughout the Old Testament. All throughout the New Testament even. Don't worship idols. Worship the Lord your God. Come on, like, God cares who we worship, because if it's not him, then he's going to get really mad. He's going to get real angry. But Jesus changed that. Jesus came in and he mediated between God and man, between us and God. He changed our reflection in the mirror. He changed it to where we look more like him. Those of you who've seen that new reflection, you can testify. It's a beautiful reflection, isn't it? Once you see it, start to see that new reflection, that's not this ugly, scarred, idolatrous reflection that we see. No, it's different now. Those who have seen it, you know. But those who haven't seen it yet, let me just say on behalf of everyone here, it's incredible. It's one of the most beautiful reflections you'll ever see. Now we're gonna have a chance to start seeing that reflection. You have a chance to, if you want, you can come down here. You can talk to me, Butch, whoever. It really, honestly, doesn't bother me who you talk to if you just want to talk to somebody. But just get the conversation started. If you're not ready to get in there yet, that's fine. That's important. Well, it's more important to starting the conversation. Because when you start the reflection, then we'll start talking. And then when you're ready, we'll go back there. And we're going to get into that small tub full of water. It's going to be kind of weird, I'm going to be honest. But as you go down, you're going to see a reflection. It's not going to be pretty. Now, it's going to be the reflection that you see in this text. It's going to be the reflection you see in this mirror right here. And it's not going to be pretty at all. But you're going to go down into that water. And when you come back up, you're going to see a new reflection. The reflection of someone who's been washed in the blood of Jesus and brought to new life. No longer will you look in the mirror and see this stuff. No. You're not going to see this stuff anymore. You're going to look in the mirror and you're going to see Jesus.